All right, welcome back. I'm going to discuss Don Sweeney today. He's the general manager of the Boston Bruins. He was hired in May of 2015 as the general manager. He's got Bruins in his blood. He played over 1,100 games with the Bruins as a defenseman. He has a little bit of a Boston accent, so he's a Boston boy. This is kind of my take on why I think he should be on the hot seat. Probably should have been on the hot seat a couple of years ago. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Please let me know. Love to talk hockey. Love to talk Bruins. So first, we're just going to take a look at trades since Sweeney was hired. 2015 offseason was his first offseason. He traded Hamilton pick and another second-round pick. Now, this was a really good trade. If you notice check marks, and then these are supposed to be minuses, but they look like dashes. Sorry. Dougie Hamilton, he wasn't happy on the Bruins. He wasn't happy being a Bruin. He didn't really fit in with the locker room, and a change was needed. So it benefited the team and the player with that trade. So it was a good trade for both parties. Dougie Hamilton's now gets Norris votes. Great. Bruins get a first and 2 second-round picks. Great. It works out. Next was he sold high on Lucic. So he traded Lucic to the Kings for a first-round pick, Colin Miller, who went to Vegas in the expansion draft, and Martin Jones, the goalie, never played a game in a Boston uniform, because he was switched to the Sharks for Sean Kuraly and a first-round pick. Now, we know Kuraly has been a solid fourth-line center for the Bruins for a few years, and he poured his heart and soul into the Bruins. Solid pickup, and you get a first-round pick out of that. So 2 first-round picks for Lucic and a fourth liner, not a bad deal. And you don't have to worry about Vegas. Not too bad. And then it starts getting downhill. So they trade a second and a fourth-round pick to the Devils for Lee Stepniak. Stepniak had a great career, and he's a great player, and I loved him. I loved watching him. But at this point in his career, he was about done. He was not producing anymore. He was on a cheaper contract, but still overpaid. I think he was making like $3 million. Don't hold me to that number. He was a rental for the playoffs, and I'm not quite sure why. They had plenty of leaders in the locker room. Stepniak can be a leader. He doesn't provide much else. So there was that. And it just didn't get any better. Frank Vetrano was a young, promising prospect who was really getting his game together in a Bruins uniform in Boston. Traded him to Florida for a third-round pick. I think it's because he didn't want to pay Vetrano the money that he's earned, because there were cap concerns, but not really. There was a lot you could do with the team at that point to alleviate cap space. Next up, the infamous Rick Nash trade. So Bruins got Rick Nash. The Rangers got Ryan Spooner, Matt Bolesky, Ryan Lindgren, a first-round pick, and a seventh-round pick. They paid way too much for a rental player with a high cap hit. This is about as straightforward as you can get it. It was a bad trade. All right, next up, traded a second and a fourth-round pick. Yet again, looks a little familiar. Shows up twice. So, second and a fourth-round pick for Marcus Johansson. Johansson's a great player. Didn't last too long on the Bruins, so there was also that. Next up, we have probably one of the greatest trades Don Sweeney's made. Not in a good way. Sorry, my dog keeps wanting to play with me. It's kind of distracting. So please don't mind the squeakies you hear. So Sweeney traded David Backes, Axel Anderson, and a first-round pick for Andre Kasha. Now, this could be looked at as getting kind of a salary cap dunk, because Backes is on a larger contract. He was making $6 million a year for cap hit. Kasha had a lot of potential. He played 4 or 5, maybe 6 seasons with Anaheim. Didn't stay healthy for a single season. Goal scorer, no doubt. Great player, high potential, but could not stay healthy, and that carried on into the Bruins. He never played a full. He was always on the IR in Boston. He played 20 games over the course of 2 years in Boston. They gave up a first-round pick for that. Now he's in Toronto. Doing great in Toronto. Love the kid. He's a lot of fun to watch. Hope he Hope he kills it. Hope he just keeps scoring and proving everyone wrong. But, overall, I'd say Boston lost that trade. And they lost the grit that David Backes gave them. Next up, we got Danton Heinen leaving to the Anaheim Ducks for Nick Ritchie. Now, this one's kind of boggling, too. Danton Heinen was a young prospect who was starting to get his game together in Boston. Nick Ritchie was also a young prospect who was a little grittier and not supposed to score as many goals as Danton Heinen. As we know, Danton Heinen has become a 20-goal scorer on more than one occasion, and Nick Ritchie had a good half season last year, first half of the season, and then that was kind of it. It fizzled out. Bruins didn't want to re-sign him, and he's not doing so hot in Toronto this year. Great dude, though. Love the dude. I really hope he does well. He rebounds. He becomes a consistent, at least a 20-goal scorer, because I love the dude's game. But overall, another loss for Don Sweeney. So next we're going to talk about free agent signings. All right. So 2015, he signed the famous Matt Bolesky, Jimmy Hayes, Brett Connolly, kind of bring the hometown boys back. The Matt Bolesky deal was 5 years at $3.8 million annual average value. So keep in mind, that deal would have ended at the end of last season. Bolesky would have been making $3.8 million at the end of last season. Terrible contract. Love Matt Bolesky, terrible contract. Jimmy Hayes at the time was overpaid as a Bruins player. Brett Connolly, it was a low risk kind of deal, so I don't have much to say on that. Still kind of in shock that Jimmy's no longer with us, man. Anyway, 2016 signs David Backes to the 5-year, $6 million cap hit per season contract. 5x6. That obviously had to be traded off to Anaheim for a cap dump because that wasn't a great contract. Backes is a great player. He played physical. He scored some goals in the beginning of his contract, and that contract definitely didn't age well, and it had to become a cap dump to another team. And I love David Backes as a Bruin. Contract was too high. So next up, we have Ryan Spooner, signed a 1-year, $2.825 million contract, traded for Rick Nash midseason. So Sean Kuraly is the only person on this player who is a re-sign. And I love this. I think it's one of the best free agent signings. It might be paying a little too much for a fourth line center, but what Sean Kuraly brought to the game was, it was fantastic. He played above and beyond the ability of what a fourth line center should bring to a game. I can't say enough about Sean Kuraly. I'm pumped he got a pay raise to go elsewhere, and we miss him in Boston. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that on the board because he was traded for in the Martin Jones deal. So let's see. Next, they signed in 2018 Yaroslav Halak, 2-year, $2.75 million each year. That was kind of a questionable trade or signing. They had Tuukka Rask. They've kind of just swapped out backups every few years, and it seemed like this was another backup swap out. But at $2.75 million, at that point, you're probably overpaying a bit for your backup and just your goaltenders in general. So that could have taken up a little less cap space, but I love Jaro Halak. Dude's one of my favorite goalies to watch. I hope he bounces back in Vancouver this year. I'm rooting for him. I don't root for Vancouver. I didn't root for Montreal when he was there, but I've always rooted for Yaroslav Halak. So, man. So the last signing of 2018 is the infamous John Moore deal. 5 years at $2.75 million each year. Obviously, he still has a couple years left on that contract. He's still with the Bruins. He's played almost his entire career with the Bruins in the minor league, in the AHL with Providence. He played his first season with Boston, and it's been a struggle ever since. He just played the last 2 games in Boston, though, so I guess that's kind of exciting, but we'll talk about that. So that's been a thing. The John Moore contract that is still on the Bruins payroll that he just doesn't play in the Bruins uniform, so that's cool. Next up, we have Danton Heinen, signed at 2 years, $2.8 million. He was really starting to produce as a young talent, and they traded him mid-season, so that was cool. Great. Craig Smith in 2020 signed a 3-year, $3.1 million contract. Again, all these values are per year. It's just easier to understand and cap hits per year than it is a total contract, because then you're doing division. Like, what's 19.3 divided by 4 years? Okay, it's under, I don't know. So Craig Smith first signed this contract, 100% was overpaid. It was not a good contract. Kind of got a few people scratching their heads. Craig Smith has fit in seamlessly as a Bruin, especially last year on a line with Taylor Hall and David Krejci. Of course, two fantastic players who know how to pass the puck, and anyone's going to look good on that line, but Craig Smith brings a whole other element. And honestly, right now, I'd say that's more of a deal than it is a bad signing. He's definitely playing above his contract and probably going to earn a pay raise, to be honest. So not bad. Then this past offseason, signed Derek Forbort, 3 years, $3 million a year. Not a bad signing. He's a defensive defenseman. He's found his offense this season, which nobody knew was there, but it's pretty impressive. So he's been playing really well. He's been playing a lot of top line, occasionally some second line minutes. Definitely earned it. So good signing there. Haula, I thought at the time was a good signing. He hasn't shown up on the score sheet. I love Haula. I've been following him since his first days in Minnesota to Vegas to Carolina, and I love watching Haula as a player, and he looks like a different human in a Bruins uniform, and not the Haula we're used to seeing. So I'm hoping he figures his game out or something happens, because it's kind of hard to watch. So this contract is so far not aging very well, but still young. Ullmark signed for 4 years at $5 million a year. This is kind of an argument that could have gone either way. Personally, I would have liked to see two young goaltenders, Vladar and Swayman, go at it. They're both having great seasons with their respective teams this year. Vladar is killing it in Calgary. Dude's got 2 shutouts as a backup. Swayman's playing well this year. Ullmark's playing really well too. It's a great contract for the type of goalie he is. He's an excellent goaltender. The Bruins core wanted to go for a Stanley Cup run this year, and what that usually means bringing in an experienced goalie, not risking it with 2 young goalies, because you don't know how they're going to play out throughout a season. They haven't played a full season in a Bruins uniform. There's a lot of question marks there, but now it's kind of, what do you do with the goaltender situation? I don't know. I talked about that in my last video too, so a little different insight in that video if you want to check it out. It's like 3 minutes. Nick Foligno was signed for 2 years, $3.8 million this offseason. Again, a head scratcher. Love Nick Foligno. Of course, I'm gonna love paying him any type of money, but he's not gonna show up on the scorecard. He's past that point. He wasn't really at that point of being a goal scorer. He's not an offensive powerhouse. He's a physical player, and he's a leader, and that's about what he provides. He can play some defense. He's a good defensive player. He's a good defensive center, or now he mostly plays wing. But why are we signing a guy for $3.8 million when they're not going to contribute depth scoring, which is really all you need? You have plenty of leaders on the team. Probably too many leaders on the team. The physical element's nice, sure, but are you going to overpay for it, or are you just like the David Backes? Are you going to learn from it? We clearly didn't. Don Sweeney clearly didn't learn from overpaying for grit. That's not how you do it. Tomas Nosek had a career year last year, played 30-something games, had 18 points. Kind of a low-risk gamble. I probably would have liked to see a 1-year deal, but if he played well, it makes sense, because then you're getting him in a bargain next year too. But notables that weren't signed was Tuukka Rask. Dude, they could have signed him to a league minimum contract. He's not going to play anywhere else. He made that very clear before the season was over last year. He's not playing anywhere else but Boston. He knew he was going to be out 80% of the season. Sign a league minimum, keep him on the LTIR. I don't understand what the issue with that was and still is. So at this point, I'd be surprised if they re-sign Rask. I know he's skating in the Bruins facilities. I think that's in case one like Ullmark or Sweeney gets injured. If that doesn't happen, I don't see Don Sweeney anyway signing Tuukka Rask. I think another GM might, and that's probably what should happen. Tuukka Rask, I don't know. Again, last video, it's a little more in depth. Another notable was David Krejci. This one really broke my heart. Krejci went to Czechoslovakia over the summer on the off season to see family, see friends. As he does every few years, he'll take a few months off and go to his home country and just, see people he hasn't seen in years. So no disrespect to that. Absolutely no hate. Only he made it clear before he left, the only team he wants to play with is Boston Bruins. And then when he's ready to retire, did not say he was ready to retire, he will finish, his playing days out in Czechoslovakia in front of his family and friends. Well, when Krejci came back, there was no cap space to sign him. Krejci wasn't done or ready to leave. He wasn't like, oh, cool, I'm going to go play in Czechoslovakia now. He was, you finally find a great second-line pairing for David Krejci after years and years of searching. You have two excellent wingers. All right? You have Taylor Hall and Craig Smith for David Krejci, and you can't keep David Krejci. And now they're looking for a second-line center. Just saying. All right. So 2015 draft, the infamous draft. The Bruins had 3 first-round picks in a row, the 14th, 15th, and 16th overall pick. The 14th pick, they picked Jakub Zboril, who's really just played a depth defensive role at this point in his career. He's come up, he's played some games and looked really good, and other games, it's kind of iffy if he's an NHL-ready player. Jake DeBrusk, as we know, scored 27 goals a couple seasons ago on the second line with David Krejci. Nice high ceiling kind of guy. Does not fit the Bruins system anymore. Him and the coach do not have a good relationship. It's not like causing negativity in the locker room and stuff. DeBrusk is a very high energy, happy guy. He loves his teammates. He loves Boston in general, but it's definitely time for a change. And I did a video on that too. If you want, it just discusses the DeBrusk situation a little more. But I love DeBrusk, and dude, I hope Sweeney figures out a trade, because he made the trade news public a little over a week and a half ago, and it's coming up on 2 years he's been in trade rumors. So I don't know, man. Probably should make a move soon. Pressure's on. But the 16th overall pick, Zach Senyshyn, still an AHL player, still can't figure it out. He's got called up to Boston to see if he can do something in an NHL uniform, and looked out of place every game he played. Still kind of looks out of place in Providence. He'll have games where he'll look good, and he'll have a majority of his games. It's rough. So the red numbers are the pre-draft rankings for 2015, and I used the McKendry because it seems to be skewed heavily in favor of these 3 guys significantly, and it was most readily available. So McKendry actually had Zboril going 14th overall. Most pre-draft rankings had Zboril going in the late first round. Still a first-round pick. I think on average it was about 28th. Next was DeBrusk. He was projected to go 28th overall. Most pre-draft rankings had DeBrusk going late first round, early second round. Zach Senyshyn was rated 40th by McKendry, and some had him around 40th, and some had him in like a late 5th round pick. So at the time, the Bruins were ready to select the 14th overall pick in the 2015 draft. The next available candidates were, according to pre-draft rankings, Matt Barzal, Kyle Connor, and Nick Merkley. Barzal and Connor are prominent players on their team. I'd be surprised if both of them are not on the All-Star team this year. They should both be All-Stars this year. Kyle Connor's been playing out of his mind this year, and we all know what Matt Barzal brings to the table. Nick Merkley his career hasn't panned out as of yet. It could, but I don't know. I haven't really read too much up on Nick Merkley, but yeah. So honestly, the Bruins had 2 NHL-ready players from that draft. Not to mention 2 players to throw on your second line. It's a whole different ballgame. It's a lot younger. These players can come in and play the first line when Marchand and Bergeron are ready to retire or are just done. Or you can swap pairings, and there's a lot you can do. You can even just have 2 first lines play the first 2 lines equal minutes. There's a lot you can do, and it would put the Bruins in a very, very lucrative position right now because they'd have depth scoring, which they do not. Other notables that were available in the draft before or at the time the Bruins were able to pick: Thomas Chabot, Evgeny Svechnikov, Joel Eriksson-Ek. And if you don't know, Eriksson-Ek has been playing out of his mind the last 2 seasons. This season, last season. Oh my God, I can't say enough about Eriksson-Ek. I was honestly skeptical when the Wild first drafted him, and boy was I wrong. Yeah, I was definitely wrong on that. He's an incredible player, and he's a lot of fun to watch. So I'll admit I'm wrong. But Ilya Samsonov was taken by the Capitals. Brock Besser, Travis Konechny, Jack Roslovic, Anthony Beauvillier, and Sebastian Aho were all available. And all first-round projected picks. Sebastian Aho was late first round, early second round. He's kind of the asterisk in this. It's also notable, though, the Bruins drafted at pick number 39 or 40, might have been 40, Brandon Carlo, who is an excellent defensive defenseman for the Bruins. He's a stud back there and doesn't get much recognition league-wide, but he's one of the most reliable defensemen I've seen. So last night's Bruins game, it was Tuesday the 14th, was kind of brutal to watch. They played Vegas in Boston. Mike Riley was scratched for John Moore, and this is kind of one of those things where did Don Sweeney request and or demands that Riley be scratched or somebody be scratched so John Moore can play more, so they can up his trade value, so they can get rid of that contract? I don't know, but honestly, if that's the case, it's a terrible idea. You're not upping John Moore's trade value. Even if he plays at Norris caliber the rest of the season, his contract's already deemed a failure at this point. It's a terrible contract. He's not going to redeem himself in a half season. That's insane. I don't really get it. And of all people to scratch, Mike Riley's probably been the best defensive player in the last 10, 15 games, with the exception of Carlo. Riley has played an incredible two-way game, been really defensively responsible, providing offense. We know he's an offensive defenseman, but dude, it's been incredible, and I don't know what to say. It's, you look at Riley versus Charlie McAvoy, right? They just signed this guy to an 8-year, $9.5 million a year extension. And Riley is supposed to be an offensive defenseman. McAvoy is supposed to be a two-way defenseman. But Riley's playing better defense than Charlie McAvoy is now. I don't understand the disconnect. I don't get it. I'm not saying they should scratch Charlie McAvoy. Obviously, that's not what I'm going for. But, maybe scratch a guy like, say, Connor Clifton. If you want to get John Morrison playing time, Connor Clifton's a depth defenseman at this point in his career. There's no question about it. The last night with Bruce Cassidy, he's the coach of the Bruins, in case, so you don't have to look it up if you don't know. He didn't switch up his lines until well after halfway through the game. They were already down 4-0 before Cassidy switched up any lines. And when he did, there were two guys that did not play shifts on any other line. One is Patrice Bergeron. Understandable. He's your first line center. He's your best face-off guy. He's going to get the most ice time regardless. And Charlie Coyle, that one really surprised me. You would think in a game like this, your team's playing horrible hockey. It was a horrible game to watch. There was they weren't just getting beat on the scoreboard; they were getting beat in every single aspect of the game, and it was. I don't enjoy when Vegas wins. It's a nice story. I'm not like opposed to. I don't hate Vegas. I'm not opposed to them losing, but I'm not rooting for them. And I grew up in Boston, so I'm rooting for Boston a lot more than I am Vegas. And dude, Vegas looks good, but Boston looked that bad. They made Vegas look even better than they probably are. And Vegas has been playing some excellent hockey. It was just one of those games where one team is like an all-star team, and the other team is like a minor league team. It was not even close. Jeremy Swayman made some nice saves to hold them at 4 goals. Bergeron and Hall with an assist scored the other goal, but I don't get it. Charlie Coyle was the only other player not to change lines. You would think with it's a team full of centers, right? We came into the season, Sweeney said it was going to be second line center by committee, and that has not been the case at all. We haven't had a chance to see Halla play the second line. We haven't had a chance to see Nosek center the line. We haven't had a chance to see Lazar center the line. Frederick. There's a lot of different players that may just find chemistry with another, like, say, Taylor Hall. Maybe Craig Smith and Taylor Hall, they obviously they have good chemistry from last year. They have very good chemistry. Maybe you throw a guy like Trent Frederick in there who has some grit to it, and it's like this incredible line that you just never would have guessed. That happens sometimes. But you don't know if you don't try, and there's no trying. So that's something I'm really stuck on. Coyle has a no movement clause this year, or a full no trade clause. And then it's a modified no trade clause for the remainder of his contract. Yeah, I didn't even get into the Coyle contract. I did that in another video too. But that's kind of a summary of Don Sweeney. I tried to sum it up because last time I tried to shoot this video, it turned into 45 minutes, and I wouldn't watch a 45-minute video of a guy just talking at a screen. So let me know what you think. Don Sweeney, I don't think he should be the GM anymore. They need to find a new GM. The funny thing is the Bruins owner, Jeremy Jacobs, doesn't really care as long as he's making money, and like a good amount of money. Obviously, a winning team produces more money, more sales, more revenue, but yeah, it costs more money too. And if the team is sliding back down, revenue tends to stay the same, and then it follows the trend a little later. So that may be the point we're at. The Bruins are still selling out games. I don't know, but a change needs to happen soon because the revenue is going to stop flowing. Not stop flowing, but slow down a bit. I think when that happens, Jacobs will make a move, but until then, Jacobs is about the money. He's not necessarily about how many Stanley Cups, or I want to build a dynasty like Kraft is with the New England Patriots. It's a very different scenario there. So, just my take. Let me know what you guys think. If maybe you disagree with something, or if you think he should be on hot seat. I obviously think he should be. I want to hear like what you guys have to say, but that's all I got for this time. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate if you stayed all the way to the end. Kind of listen to my rant. I needed to get this off my chest because it's been bothering me. Of all the teams to watch this year, it's been the hardest to watch the Bruins. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for watching again. All right, guys, take care and enjoy some hockey the next few nights. Bye, guys.